terms of monitoring their suppliers to make sure there's no issue with forced and bonded labor. They've also started to push more responsibility onto their direct suppliers. So for example, if you have a relationship with a manufacturing company, let's say in Malaysia, that is producing a product for you, you will now start to put a little bit more influence on that company to in turn have a supply chain screening program so that they know where their supplies are coming from and what their suppliers are doing in terms of a compliance space. So I think it's really raising awareness to the issue. It's certainly a hot topic in the press. There's been a lot of scandals in the last couple of years of big corporate names involving products that we buy, clothes that we wear, food that we eat. So I think it's really raising a lot of awareness to the issue more than anything else. But it's probably a catalyst for further legislation that will start to dictate a little bit more about what specific steps corporations need to do to ensure that these issues aren't creeping into their supply chain. I think there are several examples, and some as recent as just over the last couple of months, that you could find in the press where multinational corporations have been adversely impacted by modern-day slavery in their supply chains. You see it in the construction industry in the Middle East. You see it in the clothing, manufacturing, garment industry in South Asia. You see it in seafood and agriculture in Southeast Asia. There are many examples, unfortunately, of these type of transgressions in the supply chain. I think what's really interesting is that oftentimes it's a multinational corporation that's affected, but it's never an issue with their direct supplier. It's always further down the supply chain. And I think what it's really demonstrating is that a corporation that has a robust due diligence program might have a very good grasp as to what their direct suppliers are involved in, but once they lose control over that relationship and you get into the supplier web, that's really where a lot of the issues lie. And certainly from an issue of brand integrity, it's an enormous concern for a lot of corporations. The last thing any multinational corporation wants is a sort of headline article about how some of their products are being manufactured either with child labor or forced and bonded labor. So it's certainly a serious issue. I think unfortunately we're going to see a lot more examples of it in the future, but we're also going to see a lot of corporations stepping up and trying to improve their supply chain risk management. So here at Thomson Reuters, we do several things to help companies comply with their supply chain risk management. One is the development of data sets that can be used for screening. So everything from companies and individuals that are sanctioned, companies and individuals that are high risk, companies and individuals that are involved in financial crime. So really providing data that companies themselves can screen their supply chain through to highlight any risks. And then if something were to be found, they would take appropriate steps to mitigate against those risks. We also have some managed services around that type of screening. So companies can outsource the screening to us against our own data. And we also have an enhanced due diligence proposition, which is really more of a bespoke research type of service where companies can give us potentially medium risk suppliers, and analysts will go out and do a background search and really understand what the reputation is of that company. We're kind of pooling all these assets together at the moment to develop kind of know your third party supplier type of proposition, which will really kind of help corporations understand how to get these programs started, what assets they need, and really some creative tools for them not only to do screening, but also to start to understand what that supplier web is, and if they do have individuals or companies that they have some concern about, is understand really where that web is and what the relationship is behind some of these individuals.